the expectation that a seamless customer experience that is fast and frictionless in store is potentially a myth that they're busting right now. You're actually not trying to speed people through the process. The slower they go, the more they
The
buy.
better for you.
And the better for you, because then you're standing in line, you're standing close to an end cap. As you're waiting or slowly moving through the store, you're actually adding things to your cart in that process.
Welcome to Casual Friday here on Market Outsiders. It's Friday, November 7th. My name is Naman. I'm joined by my colleague, Jenny Ray. And today we are talking about the holiday season and specifically retail and retail hiring in the holiday season. So we're going to be talking about why retailers are saying they're not going to be hiring as many temporary workers this year, what's behind the move, and what it means for you. Before we dive in, if you haven't yet rated, reviewed, or subscribed to Market Outsiders, please go ahead and do that. We very, very much appreciate it. Jenny Ray, how are you on this Friday?
Hi, Naman. Really excited to be here and excited to talk about retailers. As a mom, I've definitely gotten ahead of the curve this year, building Christmas lists when my kids mention stuff. And I have a pretty big announcement to make, and I feel like I need emotional support around this because I'm in uncharted territory. We put up our Christmas tree last weekend, so November 2nd, the tree went up, and that is a 45-day advance for us. We're not even usually a Thanksgiving family. One time we did it on the 24th of December. And so this is big news. And I don't know what to do in November as a Christmas decorated person. So if anybody has advice, would really love to hear from you. But anyhow, I'm really excited to talk about today because it's definitely top of mind for me right now. Yesterday, I had a conversation with my parents where they're asking about Christmas plans and in the holiday season. One thing that I just noticed super acutely this year, even though it's been happening regularly in the past, is this Black Friday acceleration where the 1st of November hits and all of a sudden every Black Friday sale is on. And this year, Black Friday is on, I think, the 27th or the 28th of November, which means that we literally have 4 full weeks of a sale period for a lot of these companies. And so the aspects of holiday shopping and holiday hiring are super interesting to me. So I'm excited to talk about it. What about you? Do you put up a Christmas tree? Are you team November, December? Like we were usually like, let's put it up late and keep it until Valentine's Day, right? Because when the winter weather gets really bad, it's really nice to have a sunny break Christmas tree in the house.
Honestly, I don't care. So it's whenever my wife decides she wants to put it up, I'm good with. But the thing that throws me off now is I live in Texas and it's like still in the 70s and 80s here. And so it doesn't feel like Christmas. And so it feels wrong to have a Christmas tree up when it's still hot outside or it's still pleasant outside. So I go more by like what the temperature's doing versus the date.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. Well, I'm excited to dive into today's conversation. I feel the same way. I grew up in, the Northeast. And so I would say that the Christmas season actually started in September when, all the leaves fell and it got chilly and it was fire weather. But here we are in, Southern California today. And I was driving through retail centers yesterday. And sure enough, they've got all their lights up and they've got their big ornament balls up. And I'm just like, wait, but we're at the beach. Isn't that, it feels like it's not peak summer, but it definitely doesn't feel like Christmas. So let's talk about this, right? I saw this headline this morning and wanted to bring it to everybody because I think it's important when you see a headline like this one that doesn't tell you why, that you develop a hypothesis before you read something like this. So I'll tell you my hypothesis, Naman. I'd love to know if you have the same or different one, and then let's actually dive into it because I have not read underneath the headline of this one on purpose. So it was retailers' holiday hiring to hit lowest level since the Great Recession, says major industry trade group. So my thesis is that this is not an AI story, and if it was, that would have been in the headline. My thesis is that this focus is on the continuing trend to e-commerce purchasing at the holidays, which includes both cannibalization from retailers onto Amazon and their attempt to recapture that. And I'm thinking through some of, for example, Target's complete free shipping initiative, where they reduce the barrier of a price purchase, right? If the standard, it's $35 or $50 that you have to hit to get free shipping. And now it's just, order 1 tube of toothpaste and you can get it shipped to your house. So there's this kind of like reducing friction period But I think the main focus is actually on also smoothing demand, like we were talking about, right? So if instead of having a 30-day holiday season, you have a 60-day holiday season, then all of a sudden you actually don't need the same number of retail staff to work that peak. So those are my two hypotheses about why this is happening: e-commerce trends peaking, and then also the smoothing of demand. What about you?
Well, I was hoping you were going to stop at the e-commerce because smoothing demand was going to be my take there. So we're in agreement. One of the things I've been thinking about is November actually has 5 weeks this year. So if the holiday shopping season starts on November 1st, people actually have an extra week and retailers have an extra week to like push Black Friday sales. And so I think the calendar also plays a role in smoothing that demand. But you're absolutely right. Like we don't have this compressed 2 or 3 week holiday shopping season anymore where everybody hits the stores after Thanksgiving. Like it's already begun. Surveys show that like a meaningful number of people, I want to say it's like 15 or 20%, like start their holiday shopping before November. And so it sounds like you're a part of that group as well. And so it's not just smoothing of demand starting November 1st, like people start in the fall. And like they're shopping for Christmas almost year round now. And so you don't need like that bump of seasonal workers that you did 25 years ago.
Yeah. Well,
And
let's
look
go
at
through a couple of
the
the.
revenue
Oh, go ahead.
estimate as well, right? The same industry association expects that the holiday spending is going to total over $1 trillion in the U.S. this year. That would be the first time the total would drop $1 trillion. So I think it's dangerous for people to assume retailers are going to hire less because people are going to spend less. That does not seem to be the case. And I just wanted to call that out now because that, if you just read the headline, that could be a natural conclusion that you arrive at.
It's a bogus buster. I like that. All right, here's so the first point here: holiday hiring by retailers. Fact. Second one offers the latest glimpse into the jobs market. I think that's totally bogus. I don't think there's any jobs market insight from this particular information, because if their spending is expected to be up, they're going to staff accordingly, right? You're not trying to actually staff down for that. And so if you're talking about wage rates at this level or total labor spend, I think that could potentially be a jobs market insight. To me, seasonal hiring for a 2-month holiday period is not a jobs market insight. The only thing it is a call out that you should not inflate jobs hiring in the holiday season because there is a seasonal bump to them. But other than that, I think that's a totally bogus statement. And then, like you mentioned, the spend, I think, is big news. Holiday hiring by retailers, 265 and 365. I actually don't know what total number that is in terms of the percentage of U.S. workers. But again, it's a small percentage of overall U.S. workers, although not non-material, but mostly it's a 2-month period of seasonal working hiring. So it's not a annualized large number, but it is a pretty significant drop, right, from last year. So 442 last year to 265 to 365, especially if they hit that lower number. That is a pretty significant drop. So let's talk about why companies are doing this. Is it because they overstaffed last year, Naman, or is it because something changed? And you might call from something in the article, or you can call from your own either experience or insights.
Well, for me, if I was running a business like this, I would always try to, especially in a labor market like this where there is labor available, I would ramp up my staffing more slowly. I'd want to see like what's the minimum level of staffing I can get away with, especially if there's not this like war for talent happening right now, or just war for warm bodies happening right now. And so like I'd be like, okay, how do I protect my margins? How do I keep them as strong as possible? And then, hey, you know what? If I under-hire early in the season, there's going to be people available in the first or second week of December if I need to ramp up staffing later. And so that's the way that I'd be thinking about the kind of retail strategy that I would have this fall in terms of headcount. And then I'd also be thinking about, okay, how can I shift as much of this spend as possible earlier in the season? And how can I shift it to other channels as well that are more profitable for me? And so the confluence of all those factors just means that I wouldn't be expecting to hire people that much, but that could change in 4 weeks. And I don't think that's what the National Retail Federation here is taking into account. I also just think they're looking for press, to be quite honest with you, on their report. And one way to get press is to blame tariffs and to say, hey, like this reflects like a softening labor market. But in reality, I think this just reflects kind of the business needs of retailers this season.
One of the things that I would also suspect here is that some of the most important work that I did and is still being done at companies like Bain was customer segmentation work. And I think that the expectation that a seamless customer experience that is fast and frictionless in store is potentially a myth that they're busting right now. So the emphasis has become, and I think about this right yesterday, I was at Tesla. Tesla, if you don't have a Tesla, you still should try to go with somebody who has a Tesla to a Tesla service center. There is nothing like it on the planet. It's phenomenal. You pre-check in advance. You get a pre-estimate for everything that you're doing. As they're going through the car, you get updates and new estimates if you need it. You get a personalized touch from somebody. They have a waiting room with like cubicles so you can work. We had actually a separate office area. And it was we had to do 3 things on the Tesla. It took under an hour, full communication, paid with a credit card, picked up the car and walked away. Like it was a phenomenally frictionless customer experience. But that is the customer experience that retailers are trying to approximate online. And they're trying to focus on 2 things, right? How do we get somebody to check out, number 1, and then how do we get them to add stuff to their cart? But in store, you're actually not trying to speed people through the process. The slower they go, the more they
The
buy.
better for you.
And so
Yeah.
the better for you, because then you're standing in line, you're standing close to an end cap. As you're waiting or slowly moving through the store, you're actually adding things to your cart in that process. And so I think there's also potentially advanced and accelerated and potentially even AI powered customer segmentation on the revenue side that could be driving labor staffing shortages. Because if you're expecting to wait and you're listening to Christmas music and everybody's jolly and happy, then you're actually potentially increasing your share of wallet or your revenue per customer.
It's actually what I hear you saying, and I agree with you. It's actually in my best interest if I want to run like a retail location to not offer you the fastest and most frictionless experience.
Correct. So I want my people to be nice and well trained, but I actually don't necessarily need the staffing levels to check you out that I might have needed before, because I'm assuming that the people who need that fast experience are actually opting for
Going
a different
online.
channel. Right.
Yeah.
And so if you're in store and I have appropriately customer segmented you, maybe I offer a kiosk for that type of person, but there are kiosks at Kohl's and then there are, human checkout stations. And I have so far in my checkout experience at Kohl's in the last 6 months, I've seen 1 person use the kiosk because they're not in the store to try to have an online checkout experience, right? They want to make sure that somebody processes their stuff right. They're going to have a little chat with the person behind the counter. That's a very different staffing expectation. And so you don't need to have labor standing around, and you don't actually need to have everything perfectly done in the store. What you need is you need to serve your 2 channels very differently with different labor
Yeah.
needs. And you're able to very efficiently serve some of those channels. Like you can serve your online channel at night. You don't necessarily need to have increased staffing. You can increase the number of shifts per person without actually increasing your total number of people in store, if you're able to even flex the hours when you're fulfilling some of those orders.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you run a small or medium-sized business, you know how fast cyber risks are evolving. That's why I use Nord products myself. And for businesses, there's Nord Stellar. It's a threat exposure management platform that helps you spot cyber threats before they become full-blown incidents. Nord Stellar combines data breach and dark web monitoring, attack surface management, and cyber squatting protection, all in one platform. It gives you real-time visibility into leaked credentials, exposed assets, and impersonation attempts so you can act before attackers do. Think of it as seeing what hackers see and fixing it first. Right now, Nord Stellar has an exclusive Black Friday offer. Unlock 20% off with code BLACKFRIDAY20, but only until December 10th, 2025. Visit nordstellar.com/simplified to secure your business today.
I do want to get to this higher spending
Great. Let's
that
talk
they
about
mentioned in
it.
the report as well. Just one quick thing before we get there. The report kind of blame tariffs, which seems like that's just what's happening like across the board, every sector, every industry, every company, every trade group. And maybe there's some truth to it, right? Like, but I just wanted to mention one thing very, very quickly. And if you're a trade expert listening to this, then please correct me. But my understanding is that tariffs are applied to the input costs of a good, not the retail price. And so like a 20% tariff on a particular product doesn't mean that you're paying 20% more on the retail price. It's 20%
When
more
somebody
on
passes that on, it's that 20% times whatever the cost factor is. So
correct.
if the
Correct.
cost was 70%, it's 20% times 70%, which is a
Correct.
14% increase if you're going to pass 100% of that cost
If you're going to
on.
pass 100% around, which usually you're not. And so, anyways, I think a lot of people see the headline tariff numbers and think, oh, I'm paying 20% more. And that's not close to the truth for most product categories. And so I think if you don't understand how that works and you hear people saying, well, tariffs, 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 you're like, well, yeah, duh, of course. But like that's not actually how the calculations are happening, like at the customs level. And that's not how businesses are passing costs through. And so I think it's just important to understand that what you're paying is almost always much less than like the headline tariff number. And so could tariffs still be playing a role? Absolutely. But if you don't understand how these things are calculated, you might think they're like playing a bigger role than they actually are.
Also, I just want to note that the number I think was not above $1 trillion before, but one of the factors that isn't mentioned here is that if you do have inflationary pressure from tariffs or otherwise, because we had
Then your
inflation
nominal
prior
spend's
to
going to be higher.
it's possible that people are going to spend either the same or less, but this nominal number is going to look
Yeah.
better. But I think it is from a trend line important to note that it's not down, right? So
So what I would want to
how
know is
much
this
it's up
inflation
is
adjusted?
more of a question, exactly. But
Yeah.
the fact that it's not down is notable, and again is a counter argument to almost everything that you hear in the news, and it is defying the expectations of people who assume, I think wrongly, that too much of the market is price elastic. Right? Hey, we're going to raise
Look,
prices, and therefore we're going to lose more than that for customers. What we're basically seeing is a very inelastic demand curve inside the United States for consumer spending, right?
yeah.
I still want it. It's more expensive. I'll just pay it. I'll
My
find it out. I'll
authority,
find it somewhere. Hmm.
yeah, my authority for how consumers are doing, and look, we're looking big picture here. That's our job on this podcast. We're not talking about individuals. Like, are
That's
there
right.
people who are struggling? Absolutely. But my authority for how the consumer's doing are the banks. Bank of America, Ally, JP Morgan Chase, right? Like these banks that serve Main Street, not Wall Street, are saying, like, all of them are saying the same thing. The consumer is strong, spending is continuing to happen almost unabated. And so who knows the consumer better than those banks? Like they see the checking accounts, the saving accounts, they have credit card relationships, they have auto loan relationships, right? Like they're telling us that the American consumer continues to spend. This just reinforces that message. And so from like a big picture perspective, it seems like people are doing fine. And I think as long as you don't see layoffs pick up, like people are going to continue to spend. That's really, to me, the only data point that matters, right? Is do people still have jobs? If they still have jobs, they're going to continue to spend money. That's what I pay attention to the most.
So, Naman, I just want to kind of recap and see if we missed anything as we're
Yeah.
tying this all together here. First of all, what we're saying is that the spending is higher in store. So we're not actually seeing layoffs because we expect for spending to be down or foot traffic to be down or user behavior to be down. Second, we're seeing potentially an increase in advanced customer segmentation that is hypothesizing that the in-store experience does not have to be as frictionless and potentially actually could be counterproductive to be frictionless for revenue per customer. In addition, we're seeing that potentially retailers in a softer labor market don't feel like they have to go for the war on talent or the war on human capital, and they're able to say, "Hey, we could hire you now, but we also are going to keep our hiring up, and we're going to build a pipeline, but we're going to actually only bring people on from a cost basis when we absolutely assess that we need you." Whereas a couple of years ago, that wouldn't have been possible. You had to kind of beat people to the punch, and that may have led to some overhiring. So this is actually not necessarily reduced hiring, but rather normalized hiring rather than
Mhm.
proactively excessive hiring. And then finally, there's probably some opportunity here for insight just on the spend side, on the fact that retailers are really understanding better the customer now than they did back in the spring, and they're expecting a different kind of customer who's spending differently through different channels. What did I miss?
I think that covers most of it, to be honest with you. I think the last thing I would just mention is that retailers have intentionally tried to smooth out demand, right?
That's right.
Over the
Yeah,
last
we
few
didn't mention
years,
that.
right? And
Mhm.
so you actually, if you have a huge spike in revenue during the holiday season, it actually means that you didn't do a great job of fulfilling that strategic imperative of actually like distributing that demand more evenly throughout the rest of the year. And so it sounds like they're actually doing a pretty good job of that, which just means that you don't need as much seasonal hiring to happen in November and December.
If you love holidays, spending, seasonality, and everything else, if you see, like I saw this week, a Target is hiring holiday helpers sign in the store, our goal here is to help you connect the dots between things that you're seeing in the micro and then things that are happening in the macro as you become a more advanced and insightful business leader. So we just would ask you once more, if you haven't already, please subscribe, follow along. And these ideas, these conversations come from real human conversations that we enjoy having with you. Please reach out, tell us what you want us to cover, what you're thinking is insightful about the pod. If you have a favorite episode, we always love to hear about that. Make sure that you rate and review us and share this podcast with a friend. Thanks again for joining today.
Have a good weekend, everyone.